Hi everyone, and welcome to this session on Create Videos for YouTube. My name is Annie and I'm a trainer for the Google Skills free digital skills program, the Google Digital Garage. Just a bit about myself. I have a background in digital marketing and I have had my own business, so I know the highs, the lows and everything in between. And most importantly for this session, I love YouTube and what it can do in terms of motion, sound, and really bringing ideas and stories to life. I'm not here alone. We're very fortunate to be accompanied by Roshane in the chat there, and you'll know who she is through the little spanner blue next to her name. Roshane is also an expert in the digital marketing space and is there to answer many of your questions. The bigger questions she'll pass on to me for the break times, but in the most part, she'll be answering those questions there for you in the chat. So please do talk to Roshane. We love to engage with you. We love to talk. We love to know your stories and why you're here today. Please do share where you're logging in from and also what your most exciting thing to watch on YouTube is. If there was only one thing that you could watch for the rest of your life on YouTube, what would that one thing be? Share in the chat and let us know. I'll come back to that question maybe later on as well. Now, just a bit of housekeeping. If you do want to join the chat, don't forget to sign into YouTube and then you can start quickly chatting on the side. It'll only take a few minutes to do that. And also, if you do have any trouble hearing or seeing us, often just refreshing the page will iron out those problems for you. The other thing to remember is that this is not a standalone session. We have a whole host of sessions on the Digital Garage at g.co/digital garage that go very nicely with the session on YouTube creations. And we also have a course on creating or fundamentals in digital marketing. So do have a look at that. It's about 40 hours long. And at the end of it, you can get qualified by endorsement from the Open University. So very much worth your time and effort in doing that. So that's at g.co/digital garage. So today we're going to talk all about one of my favorite subjects, as I say, YouTube and creating videos. So the first thing we need to do is establish and find our niche, because if we start to try and speak to everyone, we don't speak to anybody particularly very well. So this is all about what are we passionate about and really looking at who our audience is. The next thing we're going to look at is how to create engaging content for YouTube. So that's where we'll look at some planning and also shooting out some tips along the way about how we can create that compelling and engaging content that we want to create for YouTube. Then we're going to look at getting started. So we all have to start somewhere. We need to take those first steps and then look at tracking our success along the way. So how we can measure how effective our videos are doing for us. So whether we're doing it for fun, whether we're doing it for a hobby, whether we're doing it for inspiration for ourselves, whether we're doing it as a money-making benefit, maybe a business, then we will all have a different voice and a different message to share on YouTube. And we'll look at how we can do that together now. So to start with as well, if you are a small business or a charity based in the UK, you can benefit from free one-to-one mentoring. So at this session today, or many other sessions you go to, there may be some compelling questions that you have, some thoughts that you want to share on your own particular journey with YouTube or with your own business. So you can simply go to g.co/UK mentoring and sign up for one of those sessions. I myself am one of the trainers on there, one of the mentors on there, and the lovely Roshane as well. So there's many people that you will meet along the way. And depending on your topic, you'll also get experts in different areas that you might have an interest in. So do have a look at g.co/UK mentoring. So YouTube, oh my goodness, it is massive, isn't it? And it's actually a third of basically the world's population that are on YouTube. So it certainly says that a lot of people are interested in the content. So lots and lots of people come and use YouTube, showing that out of the world of the internet, as I say, there is a third of that world that are going to YouTube. So people do like that motion, that sound, that interaction, that way to really feel and breathe life into their projects when they watch YouTube. So thinking again, what are the kind of things that you would be interested in seeing if it was just one thing you could ever watch ever again on YouTube? Let me know. So a few hellos. Lorenza Amy watching from South Africa. Hello there. And we've got Monica Dera, and you're from India. Thank you so much. I love that we have international people joining us today. And please continue in the chat. It's so lovely to know your thoughts while you're here. As I say, YouTube is massive. It's actually the second biggest search engine as well after Google. So it's where people go to search for ideas, thoughts, how-tos, demonstrations and videos to be entertained, informed, persuaded. There's many reasons that people use YouTube, and people go in there to look and search for different topics. So we've also got Fulfilled Lives from Belgium. Hello there, Fulfilled Lives. Thank you for joining us also. And as I say, every day people are consuming a lot of content. Now, when you look at these numbers, which are massive, so we've actually got over 1 billion hours watched every day, thinking about that in terms of content time spent, well, we're not even here long enough to watch that amount of content. So there's so much choice, so many ideas and so many thoughts that are coming out of YouTube every single day and every single hour. There's more and more content being uploaded. In fact, every minute, 500 hours of content is being uploaded. So we're not short on content on YouTube. It means that there's a niche, an opportunity for anyone that has any ideas to come forward and bring it to life in YouTube as well. And this is really important. So having your say on YouTube is a big mission for YouTube as a channel. So it's to give, the idea is to give every single person a voice, to show them the world, you know, for people to actually share from the corners of anywhere in the world, any ideas, to have that freedom to speak. So freedom of expression, so they can express and share their story. And the idea is that everybody, absolutely everybody, we all have something important to say. So YouTube believe that people should be able to speak freely, to share opinions, to foster open dialogue, and also that can create creative freedom. It can create opportunities that lead to new voices, new platforms, new formats. And all of that will come out of that freedom to actually have a voice. If you look back in time, we didn't have this kind of opportunity to share our thoughts and our ideas to such an audience. So it's a massive opportunity to share that expression of ideas. But also YouTube's mission is about the freedom of information. So it believes that everyone should have open access to information, and YouTube is a brilliant place for educating. It's a very powerful force. It can help you build understanding. As I said, it can bring things into a multi-dimensional approach. It can give you new ideas. You can see inside small to big events as they're happening. You can learn about whether it's cars or cakes, whatever your passion is. You can learn about anything in terms of information on YouTube. And the only thing you need is the passion to get started in creating that information. And there's also, because there's that opportunity and there's no gatekeepers to this content, you have the freedom of opportunity that was never there before. And that's one of the most compelling things about YouTube. The only thing you need is people to be interested. So getting your audience voting for you is the way forward, rather than having to get through big doors of big companies in times gone by. So basically, there's that freedom of opportunity now where you can create anything. And the only thing you need to do is to discover what people want and to do something you believe in. There's also a freedom to belong, and we all have a need to belong. That's what we're here for. We're not meant to be islands. So the idea is that everybody has the ability to find that community of support, no matter where they are, no matter what that community is, and breaking down barriers, transcending borders, and coming together around those shared interests and passions, being able to share ideas with people at all corners of the globe, being able to come up with ideas that you can find your tribe for. And let's be honest, everything is about finding our own tribe, because we won't appeal to everyone. We will appeal, though, to our tribe very closely. So it's finding our tribe and then getting that belonging as a result. So what we're talking about is niche. So finding our niche. What is our niche going to be? What does it look like, and how can we create it? So this is the foundation that we start with. We try and help to get that content together so that our channel can engage with us. So it's about creating content that we are passionate about. Surely, as well, if we're passionate, that is infectious for other people. So getting people to enjoy and get passionate about your content with like-minded people is a brilliant thing to do. I mean, it's very exciting to find people that are interested in what you talk about, and you can share those passions. From anything from photography to guitar lessons to self-development, there is so many options out there. So where we want to start is, what is your channel going to be about? Have a think about that now. Feel free to share in the chat there. And Fernanda, don't worry about joining late. Thank you so much for joining in. So let us know in the chat, what do you think your channel might be about? And why are you creating this content? It might be that you're just doing it for fun, which is fine. It's a great place to start, actually, to do things for fun and to play and to learn as we play. That's a big part of the learning process. And also, maybe you just want to document some of your experiences. Perhaps you're a hiker and you want to take people on that journey with you, take them into the mountains. Or perhaps you've had a difficult loss in your life or a problem in your life, and you've found a way through it, and you want to share those experiences with people that have gone through similar. They always say that your story could save somebody else. Also sharing, just for example, your hobbies. Maybe there is something like singing that you enjoy doing and you want to get that out there, that could then perhaps lead to something more of a career. Or maybe it's starting out small in terms of a business and growing it through YouTube. So maybe it's something that can be monetized that way. Whatever it may be, have a think about why you are creating this channel, because that will give you a clear focus on taking it forward. And also, the third element to getting those really good foundations in place for starting our YouTube is thinking, who is it for? Who is our content going to be for? Is there a particular audience we have in mind? Because that will change our tone of voice, perhaps, and our style to how we present, if we know a bit clearer about who we are speaking to. And Lorenza Amy, just doing it for fun now to document a couple of things, learning as I go along. I think that's wonderful, Amy. Really wonderful, in fact, because as we do, we learn. So practice makes perfect, for sure. And it's how we all start. And we all crawl at one point before we walk. So thank you, Amy. That's definitely a great place to start. So creating a full rounded idea before we really get heavily into the YouTube space of why we're doing it, what we're doing, and who for, can help give us those clear foundations and set guidelines for ourselves to work with in order to create focus, purpose, and attention on our content and everything as well. Fulfilled lives, the source of everything that surrounds us. I think knowing the source would help us appreciate life more. I love that soulful approach, Fulfilled Lives. Thank you so much for sharing with us. That sounds like a very interesting channel indeed. So that brings me very nicely on to the next point, which is defining your passion. And I can already see a few of them coming through there in the chat, which is fantastic. And your passion is what helps create amazing content. So one of the best things about YouTube is, I say, the motion, the sound, the way you can engage people on a topic matter in all the different dimensions, and to find that community, no matter what you're passionate about. It could be that you're passionate about cleaning. That could be a channel. It could be fashion, gaming, or just simply everyday life. It could be going through a divorce. It could be being a single parent. It could be any number of topics. But think, what is it, that topic that you particularly feel that you'd like to share some insights into and to talk about? What is the thing that you are particularly keen on? Sometimes it can help to look at what's already out there, and you might want to look at different channels on YouTube to see whether you're interested in the comedy, whether it's going to be cooking, for example, and see what is already going well. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But having a look at what is already out there can help stimulate our own ideas of passion as well. And there's such a large and diverse audience on YouTube. As mentioned, it's the second biggest search engine. So there will be people with the same passions as you that you can find. So how do we determine our passion? So one of the first things we need to think about is, what are our values and our beliefs? What do we really think is a non-negotiable? What are those things that really we're steadfast and important to us? Maybe it's that we care a lot about certain particular topics that we really want people to hear about, maybe in a political sense, maybe that we have strong beliefs in in any other way in terms of hobbies or thoughts around those hobbies and how best to use them, for example. Whatever you're passionate about, this is a place to share those passions and those ideas. But it all comes down to also, what is your story? Because we all have a story, and one of the most compelling things is hearing other people's stories. We grew up with them, we know how to relate to them, they resonate with us. So having a story and sharing your story is a fantastic way to use content like YouTube. And as I say, if you're not yet sure about that passion, just continue to look through the YouTube channels and see where the content is that you particularly find your interest landing on. Don't forget that question. If there was only one topic that you could watch forever on YouTube and nothing else, what would it be? Still waiting for some answers on that. It's not an easy question, but do share in the chat. Rushane, what would be yours? So don't forget also, if you're interested in finding more about passions and what people find interesting, you could go on the YouTube trends and see what people are saying out there in the YouTube world and what people are fascinated by. So one of the key ingredients, as I mentioned, for success is starting with that passion, that reason for why you're doing what you're doing, that enthusiasm that makes you want to jump out of bed and start filming. So what is it that you have a passion for? Maybe you can find out if you don't know. The next thing, so we've got an idea now maybe about what we might be passionate about or where we could start to research where that passion lies. But before you do anything, reflect on your why. What is this whole goal going to be about? This whole mission of the platform, what is it going to do for you? Did you join it to accomplish a certain goal? So what kind of goals have we got? So Rashane says, mine would definitely be travel, cooking, show and love them. Travel cooking shows. Oh, lovely. So that combines two passions, doesn't it? Of travel and cooking together. What a wonderful way to showcase both, especially through video, because through video, we can see parts of the world and the food that is recognized in those worlds. I learned recently that Japan has one of the longest living nations on Earth, and a part of that is what they eat. So perhaps we can start to learn about foods in different parts of the world and how healthy people can be. And yes, that is a very interesting thing to watch on YouTube. So back to the goal, what do we think we're aiming for? Do we want to build awareness? Do we just want people to know about a certain topic, a certain idea? Or do we want to get other people that are interested in our passion to share their thoughts? Or simply just talk about it because we love what we're doing and we just want people to know what it is that we care about. And hopefully that enthusiasm will encourage other people as well. But ultimately, we want to build that trust and we want to build that credibility in our channel. And we do that by being ourselves and being passionate about what we want to do. So whether we're building awareness or whether we're creating content on a specific goal, such as creating a community or sharing our passions, thinking about our goal ahead of time is a great place to start. So as you can see on screen, we've got some really good examples of what these goals might be. So Mama Cherry, she wants to inspire people to love and cook soul food. I think the word soul food in itself just sounds really interesting. And she basically brings together family, friends, and her foster children. And from there, she creates recipes, cooking tricks. And we love seeing the food come to life, don't we, on screen, especially when we're hungry. And having those tips and hacks and getting seasoned with love is how she brings together her soul food channel. And also, there could be communities we want to create, just like Super Sorrel. He wants to create a toy collectors community, and a toy collector community is very much in demand. The idea that we can bring nostalgia through toys and those toys can be brought back to life through YouTube is quite compelling. And detailing world, so that's where they're creating passion for cars. So if you've got a passion for cars, you might want to know how to best take care of it. And perhaps YouTube would be the place to go. So Detailing World actually started out as a forum, but as it grew, they went into showcase videos and growing their community. So for example, if you are working in cars, perhaps cleaning and caring for cars could be something that is brought to life through YouTube. So thinking about your goal is a very good thing to do after your passion. So now a little activity for you there. And there's a few of you there in the chat that have already started to talk, and it's lovely to have you. So I want you to think now, what is your what and your why? So what is your passion and why are you creating that YouTube channel? I've already had a little bit of feedback in the chat there, so maybe you want to extend upon that. So as an example, my what is music and my why is to teach guitar. Or my what is politics and my why is to spark debate. So I love to get people to share ideas, to give their opinion on different aspects of politics. Or my what is makeup and my why is to showcase my talent. Perhaps I've got a talented makeup, but perhaps I want to share exactly how I do a perfect foundation blend, for example. There could be lots of different things that we want to do, but have a chat in there about what you're interested in doing. So Fulfilled Lives, I'm passionate about being aware. I think we naturally enter into the loop of life, but a simple moment of awareness, those eyes widening is amazing. Thank you. That sounds like a real passion. And yes, opening eyes is certainly what we can do through a compelling channel on YouTube. So thank you for that. And do think about your what and your why. So that's our foundation, but now we need to think about, we've got our what, we've got our why, and then we need to think about our who. Amy, my what is gardening, lifestyle and wedding planning, and my why is to document my wedding journey and build a community around gardening and homemaking. That all sounds so creative and so beautiful and something that would be very aesthetically pleasing on the eye. Thank you, Amy. I'm sure many people will engage with that sort of content. Certainly it sounds like a beautiful project to be looking at. Now, we've got in the chat there already some whats and some whys, and now we've got to think who is going to be interested in this beautiful content that we're creating and these ideas that we're having. So in addition to telling that story, think about who it is that we're telling it to. So who is our audience? We might have a bit of an idea in our heads already. Is there a particular demographic, age group, gender? Is there a place where they live? Are they more rural? Are they more likely to be urban? What kind of things might they be into? So before we start tailoring that, it's in our content, it's really nice to have that kind of visual in our minds about the kind of people we might be speaking to and who might be interested in what we're doing. And think, you know, what is their household income, for example? What is their expendable income? What are they spending their money on? And that may help you guide you with ideas as to what kind of things you can bring into the topic. And also think about the kind of geographical location. Is there parts of the country that are more interested in what you're doing? Could you shine a light on those parts of the country as well in what you're doing? And what kind of behaviors and interests have they got? Is there particular music that you can bring into your channel, maybe? Some sort of interest in pets, but having an idea in these people will just give you a really clear idea about who you're creating your content for and what makes it interesting for them, what they're interested in terms of information, in terms of engagement, in terms of anything emotional, because we are emotional creatures and we do connect through emotion, and no more so though through something like film where we can see it all brought to life. So thinking about that and who we're talking to will convey a different tone of voice depending on who we are trying to attract. So it could really impact the tone of voice we use and the kind of messaging we want to create as well. Next is creating a persona. And I can see Amy saying in April next year. So yeah, so it sounds like you're having your wedding next year. Very good. Fantastic. Oh, that's an exciting thing to work towards and to document, Amy. So thank you very much for sharing that. It's great because we even have a date in mind in that sense as to how and when we're working towards. So now we're thinking about who, and in the case of Amy, it'd be other people that are interested in having weddings or getting married, or in terms of the gardening pursuits as well. So when it comes to creating the persona, then it's really, what is a persona? It's about a representation of what would be the person that would really love to watch our content and to keep watching it over and over again. Who is likely to do that? Who is likely to be most keen on what we have to say? So it's really a representation of your ideal subscriber, the person that's going to subscribe to your channel and come back. So we need to think about personas and check that what we're creating aligns with our passion and our goal of our audience. So we've got an example here of Rowan on the screen. Now, Rohan, he is 27 years old and he is in the UK. So we know where he's based and he's into cars. And all this information that we can see here can help us create content valuable for Rohan. And we also know that Rowan's got a very limited amount of time because he's got 2 children. So that might help us with the kind of content we want to create as well. So we might not want to be creating really long content for Rowan. He might be interested more in something short, sharp and snappy that really captures his imagination quickly, especially if he doesn't have a lot of time. So there's different tools we can use to find out who our audience is if we don't yet know. And one of those is Find My Audience, which is on Think with Google. And that will help us to identify the kind of desires, experiences and values of those audiences so that we can bring it to life. But if you already have subscribers to your channel, then that's great because you'll be able to start to see how they resonate with the content as well. And you can use those tools to start to get that insight, that content that you want to make those videos that are going to be compelling. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on in the analytics section as well. But if you don't have subscribers yet, many of us might still be starting out, not a problem at all. Don't forget that there's the advantage of looking on YouTube and searches to see what kind of interest there is. So have a look on YouTube and see what is ranking and the kind of people that follow those topics that you might be interested in sharing as well. And then you might get an idea more about who your persona is going to be. So next, we've got a persona, we've got a rough outline of, we've probably given them a name, we've given them a photo like Rowan had, and we've given an identity to that person that we're going to create content for. So they're living in our minds and also probably on our desks if we've got a visual of that persona. But then we need to start thinking more clearly about what our passion is. So say we have a passion for cars. I don't know if any of you in the chat have a passion for cars, but do think about what that passion is as a starting point. So if it's a passion for cars, perhaps you want to share your why, which might be your professional knowledge, your passion around that car and that particular car brand, for example. And if you're Rowan, the person that I created and researched there, they love learning about car detailing. So thinking about, you know, what kind of enthusiastic parts are they going to be interested in terms of who you're speaking to, what kind of parts will encourage them to share interest in what you're doing. And then you can start to showcase some tips perhaps on how to look after your car, how to keep it in its best condition, how to make it go faster, whatever it is, thinking about those areas that are going to appeal to Rowan or to your particular profile that you've created, the persona that you want to speak with. Now, we've just got a quick break for questions. I don't think we've got many coming through at the moment. It looks like Rashane's doing a great job in the chat. So it sounds like Amy says, I'm trying to, but struggling to get into a routine and a process a bit. Any tips? Brilliant. Thank you for that, Amy. We're actually going to talk about processes and the structure in the next part. So that's a really good question, Amy. Thank you for that. So hopefully it will be answered in the next section. But if not, please do enter in more questions as we go, because there'll be 2 more stops for questions throughout this as well. So the next step, just in time for Amy, is we're going to create some engaging content together. So this is from planning to strategy and to the equipment we might need in order to get started and to run the channel as we'd like to. So we're going to begin with an activity. So to start with, what do you think makes engaging content? Perhaps there's a certain type of content that has appealed to you out there. Do enter it into the chat and discuss it with us. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And why do you love watching YouTube videos? So for me, it's because, as mentioned, it really brings things to life. It gives another dimension. I can see behind the scenes. I can learn about things from all over the globe. I can find out more about people and how they think and how they feel. And it's quite an emotional thing that you can find through YouTube. But also it's great for learning, for educating, for teaching and for sharing ideas. So what is it that you enjoy watching? So Rashane, you said about soul food. What is it that you particularly like about the soul food? Why do you want to continue watching that? And what is it that makes you want to subscribe to a channel? Are there any channels that you've subscribed to? What has it been that you've subscribed to and has made you want to stay with that channel and to go back to it? It's a real indicator of how much we like a subject if we subscribe. So maybe go back through your subscriber list and see who you've shown an interest in. So as you can see, there's so many different kinds of things that we can have an interest in terms of content, and that gives us an open door to the content that we want to make as well, and to finding our tribes for that content. So the great thing is there's some simple and some really effective ways of getting that content out to the audience that we have in mind. So the first thing is that research and planning stage. So we're going to go through each of these parts in a bit more detail. But research and planning, as Amy says, at the moment, it's kind of looking at getting a routine and process in place. So research and planning can really assist us with that. So it will give us a strong foundation for engaging that content. So the steps that we're already looking at in terms of who we're speaking to, what and why, will really help. And then researching that a bit further will continue to do so. And then we've got, Amy says, content that flows really well and is beneficial to me, that educates me in some way. That's brilliant, Amy. So for you, there's an educational purpose to the content you watch, which is fantastic. And fulfilled lives. For the persona, could we use ourselves as a description of who we are, trying to impact to find our tribe? Certainly, your story could be a really good starting point for thinking of persona, and it might be a nice guiding force as you're beginning out to think about who that might look like until we get into the tools when we've got a greater audience. But certainly a good starting point is thinking, who is there that's like me, that is interested in what I'm interested in, and then drawing out a bit of an idea. So yes, so we research and we plan, and then the content is easier because if we plan it in advance, it's much better than what we call spray and pray. So if we've got an idea of what kind of content we're going to create and how and when it's going to be released, that will make it a lot better in the long run, instead of doing lots and lots of things and then not really knowing the goal of those kind of things that we're doing. Have your equipment ready. So it's actually easier than you may think to get started. You know, we might have this very big production idea in our heads down the line, which is great. That's fantastic to have that goal and aspiration to be a full sort of cinematic producer. But to start with, just using something simple like our phone is more than enough. It gets us started. It gets us to do some trial and error. And also it gets us to test whether this is something we have a passion for, an interest in. And so before we start investing too much in equipment, we can start to do it just with our phones and see how effective our content is, even just for ourselves. So just pointing and shooting and playing it back to ourselves can give us a bit of a guidance as to whether it's something that could be for us. But just start getting started. It takes nothing more than really most mobile phones. Then it's creating that content. So getting that content created and ready to go. So as I say, it's trial and error. There isn't a perfect vision of what it can look like. Sure, get some tips, get some ideas outside, but it's getting started that is the hardest part. And of course, everyone crawls before they walk, as I mentioned before. So just giving it a go, because we learn through what goes well, what goes badly. And I'm sure a number of you are already, as it sounds like, on YouTube. So it sounds like you're giving it a go and you're already probably learning an awful lot in that process. So looking at the research side, it's a good place to start. And we do want to think about the kind of things that will inspire our users, our watchers, and our subscribers. So we need to be inspired ourselves. Get looking on YouTube as to the kind of things that you are interested in, which is why it's good to think about what it is that you particularly are keen on, and explore your competitors in that space. See what they're doing, what's going well, what's already been done, what could you do a bit better or a bit differently to what's already out there. You'd be surprised what is out there already. So do have a look at the competitors in that space that you're interested in taking. And then listen to experts. So there'll be people that have done this in your particular area before, and you want to learn from their story. What did they do? What steps did they take to get their particular channel going? And analyze what's happening in the news, what's happening on social media, what are the trends. And then we can start to find out about any current debates or events around what we're interested in. So that could be documented, for example, within YouTube. So have a look at the research out there for what already exists in what we're doing. And don't forget about the resources as well. So I mentioned Think with Google earlier. Think with Google is a great tool for looking at finding your audience and getting a bit of a profile, a bit of an idea for your persona. And it's about looking behind the scenes as well and having a bit of an idea across digital campaigns across industry. But also Google Trends is a fantastic starting point. It's a brilliant way and a simple, free and easy to use tool to find out what people are actually searching for and the rise and fall of those particular trends. So you can go onto Google search, Google Trends, and you can search, for example, the topic of interest that you're wanting to showcase. And in there, you'll be able to see by country and by dates. So whether it be 90 days, a year, 5 years, what the trends, the highs and lows are for your particular topic. Is it a breakout theme? Is it quite an interesting topic that is really resonating at the moment and just coming to the fore? Or is it something that's been there a long time and has peak times of the years that people might be interested in? And when you go in there, you'll be able to see the kind of topics also that relate to what your interests are. So when you type in, for example, self-development, it will give you lots of other clues as to the words and terminology and keywords that are used for that subject, as well as whereabouts they are most of interest. Is it, if it's in the UK, is it England that's the most interesting place? Is it Wales? Or it might be anywhere internationally, because we can look at both region and we can look at country level. So have a look at YouTube Trends to see what kind of appetite there is for the content you might want to share. It's a really great tool. Then we need to think about the right kind of content for you. So the right kind of content, there's no perfect answer to this. It's about trial and error, as I say, but also about what works well for you and for your listeners. So consider, first of all, what resources and what time you have, because I think we'd all like to do the big picture thing, but if we start small, we can grow from there. So consider what kind of resources you realistically have to use. So we might want to think about this in terms of a relationship. Do we want a one-off, one video, and that's going to be it? Or do we want to think about taking it in steps, learning a bit more about that particular person, and then maybe even going more depth into a longer-term view of that person, and then going into a series? So if we think of it as a relationship, we can take it step by step in terms of the content we want to create. So the one-off video, that's about getting a quick but impactful hit in there, getting your message across just as quickly as possible in one video. And that could be good for all kinds of different reasons. But is that the kind of place you want to start, perhaps? Short form. So this is normally something under 3 minutes, because if it gets too long, we lose the attention spans, and attention spans are depleting. They're only seconds long. So thinking about how long we've got to keep them engaged. So under 3 minutes is really popular. You'll be used to short form video content on the likes of TikTok and other channels. So it's a very popular and interesting way to release content, and particularly if we're doing it in themes, if we're organizing ourselves into themes. So longer form video, this is if we, for example, want to document a longer view of the information. So we do it over a longer period. And that normally means more than 3 minutes. And it could be something like a podcast, an interview. Interviews are very popular. It's a way of getting more than one opinion, and also recording live those podcasts. That is becoming more and more interesting to people. Also, live streaming and documentaries, they could be something that we do in the longer form video. So different kinds of content require different lengths and different types of format. And you've probably all been on Netflix or similar and seen series. So you can see how series work. They start with a hook. How do we get people interested? And a cliffhanger. How do we get them to come back and want to come and see series 2? So it might be that you set up this different kinds of content over a period of time and create a series if there's interest in people coming back. So the best way, really, like anything, is to start small and then to grow from there. So I've just got a few things coming up in the chat, but we'll reach those in the break. And I think Roshane's doing a fantastic job in there as well. But do keep chatting there. That's fantastic. So we're just going to look at some tried and tested different ways of creating content for your audience. So the first thing is, I talked about spray and pray. We don't want to just put everything out there all at once. So we want to take a bit of a planned approach. And a way of doing that is to create a schedule in advance. So a release schedule, a bit like if we were producers of a film, we'd want to create it in stages. So let's think about the resources again. How many do we want to release per week or per day? Certainly, we don't want to be doing too many per day, but we might want to think it might be 1, it might be 2 a week, depending on what we are wanting to achieve. And also that will determine the kind of content we create as well. If we are doing a one-off video, then we might not need to do it as regularly. But if we are going to be doing those short form content, perhaps we might do those weekly with a quick under 3-minute video. So it really does depend on the kind of content we want to post, but also the appetite of your viewers. How interested are they in getting regular content? You'll start to see that in analytics a bit later on. And will you rotate that content type? So, for example, would you want to put a lightweight vlog at the beginning of the week and something a bit more higher production at the end of the week? So thinking about the kinds of content maybe at different times of the week so that your viewers get used to the kind of content that you're creating. And maybe you'll link that in to something like Tech Review Tuesday or Fun Facts Friday so that people know the kind of theme that they're going to expect when they come to see you again. So some tips there. We do need to think about using a scheduled planning approach. So once we've got that diarised calendar, we know what to release and when. We could perhaps do a bank of content so that we've got it in advance, ready to release it. And then maybe we want to let our subscribers know when something new is being introduced. So we could email them and let them know what's happening. So great. So now I think we've got an idea, hopefully, as to what is going on in our video world and also when we might release it. So we've got a bit of a plan. And now we need to think a bit more about the structure of that plan. So I mentioned before that it's important to get, if we're creating a series, to get people hooked in right from the beginning. And this is basically the process of storytelling. So with any good story, you've got to have that initial bang, that boom at the beginning that gets people interested. Think about any book you've read or any film you've watched. What is that opening piece that really gets you taken in at the beginning? So at the beginning, it's about grabbing your users' attention and getting them hooked into what you want to do. Get them to continue watching. What is it that you could talk about and summarize in a powerful way at the beginning? Maybe you could create a mystery about what's going to come, or maybe you could give them a problem that you're going to solve at the end. There's different ways that we can create a hook. The engage is the main part of that content. So it's the main part of the story. And this is where we're getting to why it's important. So everything should go up and ladder up to our core goals. So everything should align with that. So you might want to identify that problem for your viewers that I mentioned, and then follow it with the solution throughout the middle part so that they can see that there is an answer to the issues they've got. And then don't forget this, the call to action. So many people might forget to give a call to action because they think it's intuitive. You know, people will subscribe if they want to subscribe. But actually, people need a nudge. They need a reminder. We can be so busy and we might not even know it's possible to subscribe. We might forget. So giving that final clear call to action at the end is really useful, but you don't need to reserve it just for the end. If it makes sense to what you're saying and it builds well into the content, of course, you can include that earlier in as well in case you lose anybody earlier due to the timing of the video. So not everyone will come to the end, but do definitely at least get that call to action at the end. And the call to action could be anything from subscribe now, share, like our video, and just be clear on what call to action you want from that particular video that you're creating. So the next thing to do is thinking about, before we do create those videos, we might want to write down what we want to say. So this is about the writing side of the video. So this could be something as simple as some talking points. So some bullets to get us through as to what we want to say very quickly, or it might be more of a scripted approach. Perhaps we'll want to write chapter and verse exactly what we want to say. And even if we've got a best friend on hand, we could call them crew and give them directions if we're doing it with them holding the video camera, for example. So there could be a full script, there could be just bullet points, but the most important, and this comes back to passion again, is your own flair, your own voice, bringing it to life in those dimensions is so important. Because really, that is what compels people to want to know more. If you think about anything that has passion, it's infectious, it makes you interested. So think about the flair, the voice, but bring you in, because you are the unique product in all of this. This is what makes YouTube special, because no YouTube channel will be ever the same, because every single person is different. So you can bring that unique flairness to the whole process. So remember, keeping in mind that why and that who as your foundations of what you're doing. And this will help with that tone of voice as well in terms of your writing that you're creating. So speak to your audience. Don't be scared to speak directly to them. Use the you. And I bet you feel this way, or have you tried? And ask questions. Speak to the audience. And if you're not asking questions, actually just engage them in the language of you, so that they know it's more personable. And write it also, even if you're doing that scripted approach, in a way you'd say it. So you don't need to make it all formal. If you're not a formal person, you can make it very personable and warm and friendly and engaging if that's your approach. So write it just as you would say it, and then use that as your script, because that makes it more authentic. And remember to read it out loud. So give it a few goes until it feels right. Because at first a script can feel, even if it is your own words, it can feel a bit rigid. So keep reading it until it becomes more second nature to you and more comfortable. And once it's clear, once you've got that down and that dialogue is clear in your mind, give it a go. Roughly think about what you need to put into those shots and, start giving it a go. So the next thing to do then is to think about the shots in the storyboard. So what are we going to do now? We've got our script and now we know how to write. We need to think about what do we include within those shots. So this is a bit more of a planned approach as well. So using different tools like the one shown on screen, you can start to sketch out, even if you can't draw, and I'm a terrible artist, you can start to sketch out ideas of what's happening in each scene. We are really becoming filmmakers. So you can start to plan those out and sketch them out with different tools. And what you want to do is make sure that each particular scene is drawn out carefully for you. And there's different digital tools if you want, because that can give you a guidance as well, such as Film Storyboard. And that's storyboardthat.com, where you can download and use or use these different sheets to help plan your storyboard. And the important thing here is to think about your visuals, your cues, your prompts, what you need to make it a success on each of those different parts. So for each shot, you need to think, as you remember, the hook, the engagement, and the call to action. So in each shot, think, how am I going to hook them in for this particular bit? What are we going to engage them with? And how are we going to close with that call to action? Then think, what will be seen in the background? Do we need any particular props to be shown? We always at the Google Garage have a plant, because we love plants. So that's part of our brand. Perhaps there's something that you want to showcase in the back of your videos. And also think about the audio. Do we want music? Do we want just voices? What is going to suit what we're doing as best as possible? And props, do we need anything to make it more effective? Is there something that will make it a little bit more compelling? Will it add to the storytelling element if we've got props involved? And do you need help? Do you need a crew? Enlist your friends, your family, get whatever you need and get them involved, so that perhaps they are better at holding the camera, or maybe they are better at directing where the different scenes can go, or following you around. So think about the crew that you can use to bring it all to life. So now we've got our research, we've got our planning done, and now we need to think about our equipment. What equipment should we use? So as I mentioned earlier, there really is no need to go out and spend a lot of money on equipment, particularly in the early days whilst we're finding our feet with what we love and what other people love too, because people are voting with their own points, with their own thoughts about the video. So to start with then, nothing fancy, just a point and shoot camera. So starting with that video camera, on your phone can do an amazing job. And it really makes it nice and natural, authentic, and it doesn't have to cost anything. And it's quite high resolution on most cameras now. So you'll be able to use that and have as good a result as many other cameras in days gone by. Also, though, an important thing is to think about it not moving around. So one good thing is to use a tripod, so that can keep it still and mounted if you don't have a crew available to follow you around. So having a tripod means that it can sit neatly next to you without moving, and it can capture a nice image without any background disruption. If you don't have a tripod, I mean, tripods can be very inexpensive. You can get them at a lot of different stores and bargain outlets. But if you don't want to even do that, that's fine. You can put it on some books. Just make sure that it's stacked up to a certain height that you can see yourself at, and that it's stationary. That's the most important thing. The next thing to consider is lighting. So natural light is fantastic. If you can, position yourself with the window in front of you so the light's coming directly in, and so that you're facing towards it, because if it's at the side, you can get a bit of a shadow coming through, which can deter from the visuals. And then video editing software. Well, most free editing software works very well, and you can get that on your, for example, on your iPhone, or your iMovies, or Windows Movie Maker. So it's nice and easy to get started with editing as well. But if you want to do some quick touch-ups, there's YouTube software. So you can use YouTube Studio, and that can help you trim unwanted bits, which is really handy. And you can also look at what bits you want to do before putting out there and publishing, what bits you want to leave out. So that's handy too. But if you want to enhance it even further, there are things that you can go and spend money on. So I mentioned before about tripods. There are different levels of tripod that you want to buy. There are some that motion, move around with you, of varying success levels, but they can be quite handy if you're on the move. Also lighting, so you can get ring lights that a lot of beauty people use, and the most important thing is to put it in a place where it's behind the camera but directed towards you. There's also lots of variant lights that you can look up in terms of flashlights. So you can have LED lights that glow and clip to your table and put over your screen. So there's lots of lighting, and it does make all the difference to the visuals as well. But natural light is a great starting point. Microphone, obviously most handheld devices have a great microphone, but they're used to capturing quite close up. So if you are going to be at a distance, you might want to invest in a microphone, and have a look at the kind of external microphone you'd like to consider for that as well. And the video editing software, as I mentioned, there's nothing that I personally would recommend outside of YouTube Studio, which does the bits that we need in terms of trimming. But there are free tools that you can use on your laptop and you can use on your phone that will help you edit those videos nice and simply. But if you want to get into more sophisticated options, and there's many out there, you can pay to do that. Okay, so we want to start making that content. We've looked at a bit at the planning process and arranging our kit, but now we need to look more, I think, at the editing next. So top tips to think about when it comes to editing. So consider what can be seen. So we might have all sorts around the room when we're filming. So we need to think about what is in the backdrop of anywhere that we are filming, because people will notice anything that is on screen. So consider whether you've got prints or logos. So if you're wearing a top with a logo on, make sure it's your logo or the logo that you want to be seen there, because people will interpret that. And also make sure that whatever you have on display adds to the message of your story and really add value to that as well. And consider contrast. So I'm wearing grey and I'm against white, so you can see me nice and clearly. Think about those colours. Don't blend into the background, because you could get lost there. And think about a room that your space is where it doesn't echo. So try, where possible, to get carpeted floors. If you do have insulated rooms, brilliant. But anywhere that has less of an echo is fantastic. And then try different camera positions and consider angles and movements. Think about how you might open the video, how you might close it, and your key moments, the highlights throughout that you want to document and bring to life, and what you could do to make that happen. And then consider the detail prior to filming, because if we can do all that prior to filming, it's certainly going to give us even more pizzazz when we do finally do that, and we can look back on what worked well as what maybe didn't from that approach as well. So hopefully that's made the editing process easier, but now we need to look at some top tips for that. So the 5 steps to edit. So the best thing to do is to think about editing quite early on into your journey with videos. That's because then you can create this clear and presentable vision of your story that you want to create to people. There isn't any single perfect method for editing, actually. Everybody has their own, but these are some of the ways that you could try and edit to make it effective for you. So first of all, import and organize your footage. So if you've been filming on your video camera or on your phone, sorry, then you might want to import that to your computer, and then don't forget to back it up because you don't want to lose that content. Really, really important that. Then look at your favorites. Make sure you organize that into a library of what your favorites are going to be. And remember to trim and delete even entire clips if you're not happy with them. Just because you've made it doesn't mean you have to put it out there, especially because we're not investing lots and lots of money at this point. So it's all right to have trial and error. And that's where the creative process happens. The trial and error is what it is all about. Then we might want to add a bit of visuals and some sound effects to our content. So maybe there's some transitions we want to include, some titles to bring it all into focus, and we might have already put that into our storyboard. Also, we want to maybe put in some transitions, some video effects, and a bit of sound, a bit of music here and there so that people can build the emotion of the story. That's what makes video so compelling, that we can have these different senses being spoken to in the process. Check your sound as well. Make sure that you've tested it. Listen with your eyes and with your eyes closed, whether the audio sounds exactly how you wanted it to, and whether the sounds are blending nicely together, especially if you're mixing in other sounds to it. Check your color corrections. Perhaps you want to make it in a particular brightness level. Maybe you want to fix that on all your shots so it matches throughout, or maybe there's certain areas that you want to highlight. And export and upload your video. So review it a few times, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then be prepared to export. At that point, you're feeling more confident about the content that you're putting out there, and it's ready to go. If you want to have a bit more of an idea about the editing part of videoing, because it is a big part of the process, then I recommend going over to the Creator Academy for Beginners, and I'm sure that Roshane will kindly share that link with us in the chat there. So I'm just going to stop now for some questions, and I can see that you've been keeping Roshane busy in the chat. Thank you. So in terms of, it looks like Roshane has been answering all the questions for you, which is fantastic, but do keep them going. Yeah, do keep your questions coming in, and thank you for keeping Roshane very busy as normal. So the next section, so the final section we're looking at is how can we get discovered? Because that's the key part, isn't it? We want people to know about our amazing content so they can find us. And then we need to see if it's working for us, our goals, are they being met? And really knowing if we're getting closer to it as well. So having some way of tracking that is really important to us in terms of our success metrics. So let's begin with enhancing our video's discovery. So once you upload that video, you're wanting to know exactly where it's going and how it's doing. So in order for it to be best found, we need to make sure it's got those searchable titles in there. We need to have descriptions that are clear about what it is about and the tags as well, so that we can make it easier for people to find what we're doing. Otherwise, they won't know where to go. If we've got no tags, no titles, no description, it will be lost in the ether of lots and lots of videos. But if we get it very clear, then we can get into our audience. The people we really want to see our content will find us. So even just getting that in place will help to get you found better. But to start with, to get it really in place, we need to think about our keywords in a bit more depth. So as we know, YouTube is the second biggest search engine behind Google. So it is a popular place for people to be. We've got an awful lot of people there. So there's no shortage of people searching for content. So what we need to do, therefore, is make sure we've got the best opportunity with well-written descriptions. So a part of that means that we need to have the right keywords that people are actively searching for, that are going to help people find us and help us show up in the search engines. And some common terms that might come up that people use, particularly in the video world, is how to or review. So a lot of people like to do how-to demonstrations on video. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned, when we use video, we can show how things are used in practice. So it's a very good place to demonstrate ideas and thoughts coming to life. And reviewing, giving opinion. So opinion is a really important area, and the word review comes up a lot. We might hear that around books, but there's reviews around cars, around all sorts of different things that we might be reviewing. And also we want to think about how we can optimize our search for our videos, what we call search engine optimization. So we can do that with video in the same way we can with the search engines in general. So through using our existing keywords and finding how we can develop on those is how we get found initially. So how do we develop on those? So we might have some existing keywords that we think people will look for, and we can put those into different tools to establish the volume and interest around those terms. And one of the things is Google Trends, which I've already mentioned earlier. So once we put in one search term, it will show us a plethora of different search terms relating to that one we've already input. And it will show us where in the world people might be interested and the kind of times of year they might be interested in that content. So have a think about what keywords you can take from that, but also avoid irrelevant words in your description. Make sure that you stick to those that are relevant to the search. And also remember there's autocomplete on YouTube as well, so people can find it quickly. Make it searchable and write those descriptions. So reinforce important words. Here we've got mini lemon meringue pies. We know they're important words. We've also got how to, and we've got reaction. These are the kind of words that we might want to highlight in our description as well as our titles. We also just want to keep it simple. So making sure we've got hashtags in the same way we would in other social media channels so that we can bring everyone into one area and so that people can find us. Build that community up, integrate it with other channels. If you've got a website, put YouTube on there. If you've got social media, put YouTube on there, and vice versa. You know, you can put different channels on all of them so that everybody knows the different kinds of content you've got, so that you can develop the content community around different types of areas. And I've noticed we've just gone over time, so I'll try and do this as quickly as possible. So also about that integration of channels, put the sharing buttons on your website for YouTube and your other social media sites. Also make sure that you do your consistent branding of tone of voice on those different sites. So everywhere you go, you know it's Mama Cherry. She's got the same visuals, the same kind of personality, tone of voice, the same visuals everywhere she goes. Analytics. Now, this is one thing that you want to spend a bit of time on, YouTube analytics. Here you can see what's driving viewers to your channel, how long they're watching your video for, what the average time is for watching it, and the length of time they're watching it, and if they're liking, subscribing. These are the kind of things that will tell us what to do more of, what to do less of, and what is particularly compelling for us. So it'll give us a lot of scope for content. So how do we measure success? Impressions, that is if somebody sees your thumbnail of your video, but they don't necessarily watch it. However, if they see the thumbnail and they click through and they watch it, that's called a click-through rate. And then the views is how many times they view it. So looking at these different metrics helps us to understand what level of interest we've got with our viewer, how connected they are with the content we're doing and how interested they are. Of course, we can measure if certain content gets a longer duration than others, and that will tell us the kind of content we want to create in the future. I know all questions have been answered by Shane. Thank you very much. So your next steps, take a quick visual of this. Build your channel. Remember that what, that why, that who that we've talked about around your passion and your niche. Create that engaging content. Do that research, make those planned steps, that approach that takes it into an organized set of content. Make sure it's the right type of content, the right length of content for you and your viewers. Create with confidence, give it a go, because what have you got to lose? You could find your whole tribe, your whole community that will be right behind you. There's nothing more powerful than that. But keep it up, because people want to know you're there for the long haul. You're not just there for a one-night stand, you're there for the relationship. And get discovered. Make sure you're getting that nice keywords in, the good descriptions, and track it. Use those analytics to see what's working well for you. And don't be afraid to try new content. This is trial and error. There is no perfect way of doing these things. It's you, your voice, your opportunity, your passion, and you are unique. So give it all you've got. Your next steps, go to g.co/digital garage for more content on marketing to find out more about how you can do this. And also sign up at g.co/UK mentoring if you want to get some more in-depth answers. And that's a thank you from me. And my call to action is go to g.co/digital garage. Please complete the goo.gul/digital garage feedback form. Thank you so much, Shane, for bearing with me, and for all of you for your attention. As you can see, holding attention for an hour on YouTube, it's quite a job. And for you to stay and be here till the end, thank you very much. And I wish you all great great luck in your journey. Please do share one thing you've learned from today and how you felt about the session. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.